It took me most of my life to figure out something really simple. If you want to live your best life at any age, you've got to have an idea of what that looks like and a plan to get there, right? Yeah. Well, as a baby boomer, here was my original plan. I believed we needed to wish really hard that time would stand still and we'd all be forever young. Of course, that didn't happen. And clearly, time doesn't stand still for any of us. And you know what else? Wishful thinking is not a plan. For example, you want to be healthy and fit, and then you see a picture of yourself from a family reunion and you say, wow, when did I gain that 15 pounds? Or, right? You take a job until that dream opportunity comes along, and then 20 years later you say, whoa, where did time go? Or you work hard most of your life, and then suddenly you realize you didn't save enough for retirement. According to recent reports, 76 to 80% of baby boomers wish they'd saved more for retirement. And for those who think the Powerball jackpot's going to bail them out, good luck with that. You know why? Odds of winning the big one are about 1 in 292 million. As the late American psychologist Abraham Maslow reportedly said, the story of the human race is the story of men and women selling themselves short. Now, how can that be when supposedly we want a meaningful, happy life? We may tell ourselves, I'll live my best life in the future. But let me ask this. At what point does the present become the future? It doesn't matter if you're a baby boomer, a millennial, or member of any other generation. The future is now. And that means that now is the time for us to ask, what do we really want our best lives to look like? Fortunately, if we have a clear picture of that best life, then small steps we take today, tomorrow, and in the future can make all the difference. To illustrate, I'm going to share something personal. I grew up scared speechless. My silence was like a personal invitation to all the bullies in the neighborhood. And then others, including some of my teachers, were quick to tell me who I was and what I thought. Defiant, sullen, shallow. I'd heard it all. And when I became a parent, I realized my inability to communicate affected every aspect of my life. I couldn't even make a doctor's appointment over the phone for my kids without first writing out a script and practicing it. To make matters worse, I grew up believing you're either a winner or you're a loser. You're either a success or you're a failure. Come on, I only heard about a 25% response rate, and that was a pop quiz. You're a success or you're a failure. All right. Thankfully, a friend suggested I try Toastmasters. And so out of desperation, because I'd heard that Toastmasters help people gain confidence communicating, I joined. And then week after week, I watched other members model confident communication. I followed step-by-step manuals. And I got lots of feedback emphasizing growth rather than success or failure. In her book, Mindset, A New Psychology for Success, motivational researcher Carol Dweck stresses the importance of a growth mindset if we want to move toward our best lives. Well, in a couple of years, I realized I had grown and I could speak up. Those small steps, guided by a clear vision, changed my life forever. In a minute, I'm going to share how all of us can use a similar process to identify our best lives and then move toward it. But first, I want to share another example that I think will better illustrate this process. Several years ago, and I mean several years ago, I had a position as a communication assessment researcher. I also did writing assessment training. One time, I was sent to New York to work with a group of grade school teachers. I started my session by sharing an example, a writing sample from a fourth grader's class. Immediately, the teachers let me know they weren't impressed. In fact, one teacher said, "That child will never be a writer." Then I shared another sample from the same classroom, and this time the sample got rave reviews. You probably guessed it was the same child, right? Just 6 months later. Now, the reason this transformation was possible was that the child was given a clear picture of what good fourth grade writing looked like. And then that picture, that vision, was broken down into measurable components and put on a scale. Teachers call this research-based tool a rubric. Used with permission, I'm going to share an excerpt of one. You'll notice the measurable component that I've listed is editing. A beginning writer's work needs usually extensive editing, but as they progress, step by measurable step, eventually they should get to the place where their writing needs very little editing. After working with rubrics for several years, I realized that any of us could use the same basic process to move toward our best lives. I call this personal application a vision map. Vision maps are pretty easy to develop. It's a two-step process, and it involves our intuitive and our analytical skills. Now first, rather than having somebody else give you their vision, you create a picture of your own best life. And sometimes it really helps to literally have a picture of that best life. My artist friend and collaborator, Susan Rochester, helps others do this through a process called visual journaling. And this involves gathering images that speak to you and then responding to them in some way. For myself, I find that I'm drawn to images of women who have refused to be silenced, and I respond to those images by feeling courageous. Another way we can picture our best lives is by identifying personal role models. One of my favorites is the late American suffragist Susan B. Anthony. Even though she had a fear of public speaking, for over 50 years, she was the voice for those who didn't have a voice. And you know what? In 1871, she spoke right here in Roseburg, Oregon. Yet another way we can visualize our best life is to do some reflective journaling, to write about our experiences, our talents, and our passions. Interestingly, the root word for passion comes from Latin, and it means to endure or to suffer. So here's a question for you. For what are you willing to endure or suffer? Once we have a picture of our best lives, then we can draft a vision statement or two to help guide us. Examples might include, I'm healthy and fit, or I have a satisfying career, or I'm secure in retirement. At this point, we're starting to act as our own personal coaches. But we've got to go beyond words, because a vision without actions is nothing more than magical thinking. So, with the second step, We need to take that vision and break it down into measurable components and put it on a scale. In other words, we're creating our own personal rubric. And this is what I call a measurable action plan. For example, I know that as I continue to age, I want to stay active. So I have a measurable plan for exercise. And you'll notice that I've highlighted balance work. I added that last year. My daughter-in-law, a physical therapist, said that working on our balance is one of the most important things we can do as we age. Now, I don't always do 3 to 4 minutes a day. I don't always do 2 to 3 minutes a day. But I do something, and that's what counts. I was going to demonstrate this today, but my daughter-in-law said, don't do that in platform shoes. So I'm not going to. I first started using vision maps about 15 years ago. Up to that point, I really didn't have a picture of my own best life. I tried on different careers, like you'd try on somebody else's clothes and none of them fit. At one point, I was offered a research assistantship in a doctoral program for educational leadership, and I thought, why not? It meant free tuition to finish the program, so okay. I zipped through my coursework, I started tearing into my dissertation, and then I thought, I'm no longer interested. Why am I doing this? I had no idea. So you know what I did? I quit. I used personal problems as my excuse. I quit not only once, but twice. Do I have regrets? Sure. After several months of reflective journaling, I finally could see that my best life involved helping others find their voices and maybe their best lives. And one way I could do that was through teaching, especially in a place where community and relationships mattered. So I developed a measurable action plan, and that plan led me right here to Umpqua Community College. 13 years ago, when I was hired to teach speech and communication, I was already a grandmother. 12 of the 13 years I've taught here, I taught small group communication. I designed that course focused on service learning. In the beginning of each term, I'd ask students to visualize a solution to a community problem and then develop a measurable action plan to implement that solution. One team of 4 women envisioned a community auction to help raise funds for a local grade school project. Their components of their measurable action plan included organizing their auction, getting donations, and promoting their event. With the help of our supportive community, those 4 women raised over $2,000 for a local grade school. Teaching at UCC has been one of my best lives yet. I love it when I hear other colleagues ask students, how's your job going? How's that car running for you? I'm thankful to have such caring, compassionate colleagues. My own students have also left a forever impact on my life. I've celebrated with them at graduation. I've been invited to a couple of their weddings. And I also attended 2 of their funerals. Because my vision map led me here, and because being here has been true to my core, I have never doubted that this was where I was supposed to be. But now I'm an elder woman, not elderly. There's a big difference. I'm an elder woman. As one of our grandsons told me, I am now wise, like Yoda I am. So as a wise elder woman, I know it's now time for me to start thinking about my best life after teaching. I've modified my vision map so I can continue doing what I'm doing after I do retire. Vision maps are flexible. They change with us as we move through time, as we grow. Anyone can create a vision map. Parents can use them with their children. Small groups can use them to accomplish great things. We can even use them in relational and organizational communication. And when these areas improve, all of our lives are better. Of course, it takes effort to create a vision map, but that's our choice. The good news is this. Whether you're a baby boomer, a millennial, or a member of any other generation, it is never too late or too early to start living our best lives. When guided by a clear vision, those small steps we take can not only make our lives better, but it can improve the lives of others we touch. The future is now. And so now is the time for each of us to ask, what do we want our future to look like?